Lucas had never felt more hopeful in his life. After years of working hard and saving every penny, he finally found a house that felt like it was made just for him. The small, white cottage sat quietly at the edge of a sparkling lake, surrounded by tall trees that danced softly in the gentle breeze. It was peaceful and perfect, a fresh start in a new place. The day Lucas moved in was bright and clear. He stood on the wooden porch and looked out over the calm water, watching as the sunlight made tiny stars glitter on the surface. He could almost hear the lake whispering to him, promising calm mornings and quiet evenings. For so long, his life had been full of noise and stress, but now, everything felt different. Lucas smiled as he opened the front door and stepped inside. The house smelled of fresh paint and wood, and dust danced in the golden light coming through the windows. The walls were pale blue, like the sky, and the floor creaked softly under his feet. He set down his boxes and looked around, imagining where everything would go. A small kitchen, a cozy living room with a fireplace, and a little study where he could write and think. Outside, the lake stretched wide and still, its surface smooth like glass. Ducks floated lazily, and somewhere nearby, a frog croaked. Lucas felt calm. For the first time in years, he could breathe. He had left behind a noisy city apartment, crowded with traffic and strangers. His old job was stressful, the people he knew were always busy or unhappy, and his days all ran together like a gray blur. But here, everything was new and fresh. Lucas was ready to build a life filled with hope and quiet joy. As the afternoon passed, Lucas unpacked his things slowly. He placed a small wooden boat by the porch and carefully hung a fishing rod near the back door. He thought about the mornings he would spend on the water, the soft mist rising off the lake, and the peace of being alone with nature. But even as he felt excited, Lucas knew this was just the beginning. He was still new to the neighborhood, and he didn't know anyone yet. Sometimes, the quiet made him feel a little lonely. What if no one welcomed him? What if this peaceful place had hidden problems he hadn't seen? That evening, Lucas made a small fire in the backyard. He sat by the flames, wrapped in a warm blanket, and watched the stars begin to appear. The sky was clear, and the night was filled with soft sounds: the gentle lap of water, the call of an owl, the rustle of leaves. He thought about his dreams for this place. A garden full of flowers, dinners with friends, and quiet mornings with a cup of tea and a good book. It felt like a dream coming true, and yet, there was a small part of him that wondered if this peace could last. As he stared at the fire, Lucas heard footsteps on the gravel path. He looked up and saw a woman walking toward him. She was middle-aged, with kind eyes but a serious face. She introduced herself as Mrs. Green, one of the neighbors. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I hope you like it here." Lucas smiled and nodded. "Thank you. It's beautiful." Mrs. Green looked around carefully. "We like to keep things peaceful here," she said. "It's a small community, and everyone watches out for each other." Lucas felt a little relieved. "I want to be part of that," he said. "I'm looking forward to getting to know everyone." Mrs. Green nodded, then hesitated before adding, "There are some rules, though. The homeowners association is very active. It helps keep the lake and the docks safe for everyone. You'll want to know about that." Lucas listened carefully, curious but calm. "I haven't seen much about the HOA yet. Can you tell me more?" Mrs. Green smiled kindly but with a hint of warning. "Of course. We'll have a meeting soon. You'll get all the information then." With that, she wished him good night and walked away, leaving Lucas alone again with the crackling fire and the quiet lake. He thought about what she had said. Rules and meetings sounded serious. But Lucas was not afraid. He was ready to face whatever came his way. This was his new home, and he was determined to make it a place of peace and happiness. As the fire died down, Lucas stood and looked once more at the dark lake, now silver under the moonlight. He felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. This was the start of something new, a new chapter in his life. He went inside, closed the door behind him, and smiled to himself. Tomorrow, he would begin to learn more about this place and the people who lived here. But for now, he just wanted to rest, feeling the quiet peace of the lake wrap around him like a gentle hug. Lucas fell asleep that night with dreams of sunlight on water, the soft sounds of nature, and the hope that this little house by the lake would finally be the home he had always wanted. Just 2 days after Lucas moved into his peaceful lake house, the quiet morning was suddenly broken by the sound of voices outside. He was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, when he heard a firm knock at the door. Curious, he wiped his hands on a towel and opened it. Standing there were 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman dressed neatly in shirts and slacks. They all wore serious expressions, and the woman held a clipboard filled with papers. Lucas's heart beat a little faster. These were not the friendly neighbors he had hoped to meet so soon. "Good morning," the woman said, her voice calm but firm. "I'm Mrs. Clark. This is Mr. Harris and Mr. Lewis. We're members of the Homeowners Association, or HOA." Lucas nodded politely. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Mrs. Clark looked around carefully before continuing. "We've noticed that you've been using the lake and docks since you moved in. Unfortunately, this is a problem. According to the HOA rules, only residents who are part of the community and who pay dues can use these facilities." Lucas frowned. "I'm new here, but I'm a resident. Isn't this my property? The house came with lake access." Mr. Harris stepped forward. "The lake and docks belong to the community, not individual homeowners. The HOA manages them to keep everything safe and fair for everyone." Lucas shook his head. "I have paperwork from the land sale. It shows that the property includes the lakefront and the docks." Mrs. Clark glanced at the clipboard again and said, "There must be some mistake. The HOA has managed this lake for years. Everyone here respects the rules. We ask that you stop using the docks immediately until this is sorted out." Lucas's stomach tightened. It felt like a surprise attack. He had been so excited to fish, swim, and relax by the lake, and now these people were telling him he couldn't. But more than that, their tone felt harsh, like they didn't want to hear his side at all. "I understand," Lucas said carefully. "But I need to check the documents again. Please give me some time." Mrs. Clark nodded slowly, but her eyes showed little sympathy. "We expect your cooperation. The community's peace depends on everyone following the rules." With that, the 3 visitors turned and walked away, their footsteps heavy on the gravel path. Lucas closed the door and leaned against it, feeling confused and frustrated. He sat down at the kitchen table, his mind racing. Who were these people? Why did they want to take away his lake? And what did it mean for his new life here? Lucas decided to stay calm. He knew he had to find answers before things got worse. He pulled out the papers he had received when he bought the house and began to study them carefully. The documents showed the boundaries of his property, the size of his land, and a note about the lake and docks. It said he had the rights to the lakefront and the docks that were next to his house. That meant he controlled the lake access for his property. But if that was true, why did the HOA say otherwise? Lucas remembered what Mrs. Green, his neighbor, had said about the HOA. Maybe there was more to this than he understood. He made a plan. First, he would talk to more neighbors and learn about the community rules. Then, he would ask the HOA for the official papers showing their authority over the lake and docks. If he had rights, he would protect them. But if the HOA had a case, he would listen and find a way to work together. Lucas also felt something else, an unexpected worry. What if this fight over the lake was just the beginning? Would the neighborhood accept him, or would they see him as an outsider? Would he be able to find peace here after all? That afternoon, Lucas took a walk around the neighborhood. The sun was warm, and the air smelled of pine and fresh earth. He greeted a few neighbors, hoping for friendly faces. Most smiled politely but looked busy, as if they were careful about new people. He stopped by a small park where a group of children played. Their laughter filled the air and reminded him of simpler times. Lucas smiled to himself and thought, maybe this community isn't as cold as it seems. Later, back at home, he opened his laptop and started searching for information about the HOA. He found the community website, which listed rules, meeting dates, and contact details for board members. The HOA seemed well organized and strict, with clear rules about property use, noise, and safety. Lucas felt a little overwhelmed but also hopeful. If he could understand the rules and show he wanted to be part of the community, maybe he could find a way through the conflict. As the sun set behind the trees, Lucas stood on his porch, looking out over the lake. The water was calm again, but in his heart, a storm was beginning to grow, a storm of questions, challenges, and the unknown. Still, he was ready. He had come this far. This lake, this house, was more than just property, it was his new beginning. And no matter what happened, Lucas promised himself, he would fight to protect that hope. Lucas sat at his kitchen table, papers spread out before him, the afternoon sunlight streaming through the window. He was determined to understand what was really happening with the lake and the docks. The unexpected visit from the HOA had shaken his calm, but he refused to give up on his new home without a fight. He reached for a thick folder of documents he had received from the real estate agent when he bought the house. It contained the property deed, maps, and various legal papers. He carefully looked for anything that mentioned the lake and docks. At first, it was confusing. The language was full of legal words and numbers that didn't make much sense. But then, one line caught his eye: the property includes exclusive rights to the lakefront and the adjacent docks as per the original land sale agreement dated 1975. Lucas's heart raced. This line seemed clear, he owned the rights to the lake and docks. But if that was true, why had the HOA told him otherwise? He dug deeper. There was a copy of an old map showing the land boundaries, with his property outlined in bright red. It clearly included the stretch of land touching the lake, the docks, and even a small boathouse nearby. But the documents also showed something else: a small, folded letter from 1976, addressed to the HOA board at the time. Curious, Lucas carefully unfolded it and read the faded words: "To whom it may concern, the ownership of the docks and lakefront access remains with the individual landowners, not the HOA. Any community use must have permission from property owners. The HOA manages the common land but does not hold rights over privately owned lake access points." Lucas leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. It was clear he did have control over the docks and the lake access at his property. The HOA had no legal claim over that part of the land. This was a surprise, but also a relief. His dream of peaceful mornings by the lake was not taken away. At least, not by law. But it also raised a new question: why had the HOA members come so strongly, demanding he stop using the docks? Did they not know the truth? Or was there something else going on? Lucas decided to find out. He knew he needed help and advice from someone who understood local laws. So, he contacted a friendly lawyer he had met briefly when he first moved in. The lawyer, Mr. Patel, agreed to look over the papers. After a careful review, he called Lucas the next day. "Lucas," Mr. Patel said kindly, "you have strong legal rights over your lakefront and docks. The documents you have are clear. The HOA can't force you to stop using your property." Lucas felt a wave of relief. "Thank you. I was worried I might have to give up something I worked so hard for." Mr. Patel continued, "That said, the HOA does have rules about common areas, and neighbors' concerns can't be ignored. I recommend you try to find a way to work with the community, but stand firm on your rights." Lucas nodded. "I want that too. I don't want conflict. I want to be part of the neighborhood. With this new knowledge, Lucas felt stronger. But he also knew he had to be careful. Sometimes, the truth alone was not enough. People's feelings, fears, and old habits could create problems. Over the next few days, Lucas tried to talk to more neighbors. Some were kind and curious, asking questions about his plans for the lake. Others seemed wary, their eyes cautious and uncertain. One afternoon, he met Mr. Ellis, an elderly man who had lived in the neighborhood for decades. Mr. Ellis smiled warmly and said, "The lake means a lot to this community. We've all used it for years. It's like a shared treasure." Lucas nodded. "I understand. I want to share it too, but I also want to protect my rights." Mr. Ellis looked thoughtful. "Maybe no one told you, but there have been problems before, people using the docks without asking, boats left too long, sometimes damage to the shoreline. The HOA tries to keep things safe." Lucas listened carefully. "That's why I want to find a good solution for everyone." Mr. Ellis patted his shoulder gently. "Good. That's the spirit. The lake belongs to the landowners, but the community cares for it too. If you can bring them together, you'll be a true neighbor." Lucas felt a warmth inside, a sense of hope. He realized the problem wasn't just legal papers or land rights, it was about trust, respect, and working together. That evening, Lucas sat on the porch, watching the sun sink behind the trees. The lake was calm, the water reflecting pink and orange skies. He felt peaceful but ready. The next step would be to meet the HOA again, but this time with the truth in hand. He knew it wouldn't be easy. Change rarely was. But Lucas also knew one thing for sure: this lake, this home, was his. And he would do everything he could to protect it, not just for himself, but for the neighbors and the future. The sun disappeared below the horizon, and the first stars began to twinkle. Lucas took a deep breath, feeling the promise of new beginnings and the strength to face the challenges ahead. The morning sun poured through the windows of Lucas's little house, casting warm light across the kitchen table. Today was the day he had been waiting for, the day to face the HOA members again, this time prepared with the truth and his legal papers. Lucas felt a mix of nerves and determination. He knew that the meeting could be uncomfortable, but he also knew that if he wanted peace, he had to stand his ground. This house, the lake, and the docks were his home, and he would protect them. He dressed neatly and gathered his documents into a neat folder. As he walked toward the community center, where the HOA had scheduled the meeting, he took a deep breath and reminded himself, "Stay calm, be clear, and listen." When Lucas arrived, several neighbors and HOA members were already there, sitting quietly around a long table. Mrs. Clark, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Lewis were there too, their faces serious but curious. "Good morning, everyone," Lucas began, his voice steady. "Thank you for meeting with me today." Mrs. Clark nodded, folding her hands. "We're here to discuss the lake and docks, and how they are used." Lucas opened his folder and carefully placed the documents on the table. "I've looked closely at the papers from my property purchase. These show that I have rights to the lakefront and the docks next to my house." He pointed to the old land map and the letter from 1976. "These documents make it clear that the lake access and docks belong to individual property owners, not the HOA." A murmur ran through the room. Some neighbors whispered quietly, others exchanged looks. Mr. Harris cleared his throat. "We were not aware of this. The HOA has managed the lake for years to ensure safety and fairness, but if the ownership is private, that changes things." Lucas nodded. "I want to respect the community's concerns. I understand that the lake is important to everyone. But I cannot give up the rights to my property." Mrs. Clark's eyes softened slightly. "We appreciate your honesty, Lucas. It is clear you have the documents to support your claim." Lucas smiled, feeling some relief. "Thank you. I want to find a way to work with all of you, to keep this community safe and happy. Mr. Lewis spoke up. There have been problems in the past. Some people used the docks without permission, causing damage. We worry about safety and responsibility. Lucas understood their concerns. Those are fair points. I am willing to work on rules about using the docks and lake, rules that protect the land and respect everyone. The conversation began to change. What had started as a conflict slowly turned into a discussion. Neighbors shared stories of the lake, the wildlife, and the times they had spent together there. Mrs. Clark suggested, perhaps we can create an agreement, a shared set of guidelines that respects your ownership while allowing responsible community use. Lucas nodded. That sounds good. I want this lake to be a place where neighbors can come together, but safely and fairly. The meeting went on for an hour, with neighbors asking questions and sharing their feelings. Lucas listened carefully and answered honestly. He spoke about his dreams for the lake, quiet mornings fishing, peaceful evenings watching the stars, and occasional small gatherings with friends and neighbors. By the end of the meeting, there was a new sense of understanding in the room. Mrs. Clark smiled. We will work on a plan together. Thank you for bringing the documents and for being willing to cooperate. Lucas felt a warm glow in his chest. The storm that had seemed so dark was beginning to clear. After the meeting, a few neighbors approached him with kind words. Mr. Ellis, the elderly man Lucas had met before, patted his shoulder. You did well, Lucas. It takes courage to stand up and listen at the same time. Lucas smiled gratefully. Thank you. I want to be part of this community. As Lucas walked home, he felt a lightness he hadn't known since he arrived. Yes, there would be challenges ahead, but today was proof that honesty, respect, and courage could bring people together. Back at his house, Lucas stepped onto his porch and looked out over the lake. The sun was setting, painting the water in colors of gold and pink. Ducks floated peacefully, and the soft breeze whispered through the trees. He thought about the journey ahead, the work of building trust and friendship. But for the first time, Lucas felt sure that he was not alone. This was his home, not just by law but in his heart. And he was ready to protect it for himself, for his neighbors, and for the future. The days after the meeting felt different for Lucas. He woke up with a lightness he hadn't felt since moving to the lake house. The storm of confusion and conflict was settling, replaced by something new, hope. Lucas knew the real work was just beginning. Having the legal papers was important, but it wasn't enough to keep peace in the neighborhood. People needed to feel they were part of something, not just following rules. Lucas wanted to build bridges, not walls. That weekend, Lucas decided to invite a few neighbors for a small gathering by the lake. Nothing big, just coffee, snacks, and conversation. He hoped that spending time together outdoors would help them all feel more comfortable. He spent the morning cleaning the docks, sweeping away leaves and arranging chairs under a big oak tree. He placed a small table with cookies and lemonade near the water's edge. The sun shone warmly, and the lake reflected the blue sky. One by one, neighbors began to arrive. Mrs. Green, the woman who welcomed him early on, brought a homemade pie. Mr. Ellis carried a basket of fresh apples from his garden. Even some of the younger families with children showed up, curious and smiling. Lucas greeted each person warmly. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I thought it would be nice to spend some time together here, by the lake." The neighbors found seats and started to talk. The children played near the water, their laughter bright and free. Adults shared stories about the neighborhood, the seasons by the lake, and memories of past celebrations. Mrs. Green spoke up, "It's good to have you here, Lucas. We've all cared about this lake for a long time. Sometimes, change is hard, but it's also a chance to grow." Lucas nodded. "I understand. I want to make sure we protect this place, but also that we enjoy it together. We can create rules, but friendship matters more." Mr. Ellis smiled. You're right. If people know and trust each other, things work better. As the afternoon passed, the mood grew lighter. Lucas felt a warmth spread through his heart. He wasn't just a new owner of a house and lakefront, he was becoming part of a community. Later, Lucas stood by the water and watched the sun begin to set. The sky turned soft pink and orange, and the lake seemed to glow. Mrs. Green walked up beside him. "You did something important today," she said quietly. "You showed that you care not just about the land, but about the people." Lucas smiled. "I want this to be a place where everyone feels welcome." Mrs. Green nodded. "And that's how communities grow, step by step, with patience and kindness." Over the next few weeks, Lucas worked on drafting a simple agreement about the use of the docks and lake. He invited neighbors to help, asking for their ideas and concerns. Together, they wrote rules about safety, respect for nature, and fair use. The HOA board agreed to support the plan, and soon, the agreement was signed by the property owners along the lakefront. It was not just a legal paper, it was a symbol of trust and cooperation. With the new understanding in place, Lucas organized small events by the lake: a picnic, a fishing day for the children, and even a quiet evening for star watching. The community began to come together, sharing smiles, stories, and laughter. One afternoon, as Lucas helped a young boy untangle his fishing line, he felt a deep peace. The boy looked up and said, "I like this lake. It's my favorite place." Lucas nodded. "Mine too." That night, Lucas sat on his porch, the lake calm and bright under the moonlight. The soft sound of water lapping against the docks was a gentle song. He thought about how far he had come from the confusion and worry of those first days, to this quiet moment of belonging. Lucas knew the road ahead might have challenges, but he felt ready. He had found not just a house or a lake, but a home filled with friendship and hope. And that was more than he had ever imagined. The days grew shorter, and the cool breeze of autumn began to whisper through the trees. The lake reflected the fiery colors of red, orange, and gold, and the neighborhood settled into a quieter rhythm. Lucas enjoyed the peaceful mornings by the water, feeling grateful for the community he was becoming part of. The agreement about the lake and docks had brought calm, and the neighbors seemed more connected than before. But one chilly afternoon, Lucas received a call that shook his calm once again. "Lucas, it's Mrs. Clark," the voice said on the other end, firm but not unfriendly. "There's been a problem at the docks. Some damage was reported. Can you come to the community center?" Lucas frowned. "Damage at the docks?" He grabbed his jacket and hurried out the door, heart pounding with worry. When he arrived at the community center, a small group of neighbors and HOA members were gathered. The mood was tense, and Mrs. Clark explained carefully, "Last night, someone left a boat tied to the docks for too long, and the ropes caused damage to the wood. It's not severe, but it needs repair." Lucas nodded. "I understand. Do we know who did this?" Mr. Harris spoke up. "No one saw exactly, but some neighbors heard voices late at night near the docks." Lucas's mind raced. The docks were his responsibility, and this damage could cause trouble with neighbors. He looked around at the concerned faces and felt the weight of their trust. "I'll take care of the repairs," Lucas said firmly. "And I'll work with everyone to make sure this doesn't happen again." Over the next few days, Lucas inspected the docks closely. He found some worn ropes and small cracks in the wood. He contacted a local carpenter, and together they planned the repairs. Meanwhile, Lucas reached out to neighbors with a gentle message: "Let's all keep an eye on the lake and docks. If you see anything unusual, please let me know." Most neighbors responded with support. They appreciated Lucas's openness and willingness to solve the problem. But not everyone was happy. One evening, as Lucas was working outside, he heard voices near the docks. He approached quietly and saw two young men laughing loudly, sitting on the edge of the dock with fishing poles. "Hey," Lucas called softly. Please be careful with the docks. They were damaged recently. One of the young men shrugged. It's just a dock. Don't worry so much. Lucas took a deep breath. It's important to all of us. Please help us keep it safe. The young men nodded but didn't seem fully convinced. That night, Lucas felt restless. He knew that earning trust was not always easy, especially with new neighbors or visitors who didn't yet feel connected. The next day, he decided to organize a small cleanup day at the lake. He invited families, children, and anyone who wanted to help fix the docks and clean the shoreline. To his surprise, many people came. They brought tools, snacks, and good spirits. Together, they worked to repair the docks, pick up litter, and clear fallen branches. Lucas worked alongside his neighbors, sharing stories and laughter. The children helped paint the dock's railings bright white, and even the two young men from the night before showed up with their fishing gear, ready to help. By the afternoon, the lakefront looked fresh and cared for. The community had come together again, stronger than before. Mrs. Clark approached Lucas with a smile. "You've done a great job, Lucas. This shows real leadership." Lucas smiled back, feeling a warm pride. "We all did it together. That's what matters." The cleanup day became a new tradition. Once a month, neighbors would meet by the lake to care for the shared space, share stories, and strengthen their bond. Through the challenges, Lucas learned something important: trust was not just given, it was earned through action, patience, and kindness. One evening, as Lucas stood by the lake, the stars twinkling above, he felt a deep peace. The lake was not just his property or the subject of disputes, it was a place of connection, healing, and hope. The storms of the past had passed, and a new season of friendship had begun. Lucas knew there would be more challenges ahead, but now he was ready. He was no longer just the new owner. He was part of a community, part of a family. And the lake, calm and bright beneath the moon, held the promise of many more peaceful days to come. The lake was calm, the surface smooth like glass, reflecting the clear blue sky and the tall trees standing proudly on its banks. Lucas stood at the edge of the dock, looking out across the water. He took a deep breath, feeling the fresh morning air fill his lungs. It had been months since the first storm, the moment when the HOA had come to his door demanding control of the lake and docks. So much had changed since then. What had begun as conflict and confusion had grown into understanding and friendship. Lucas smiled softly, remembering all the steps he had taken. The meetings with neighbors, the long talks by the fire pit, the cleanup days, and the small celebrations by the water. All of it had built something new, a community united by respect and care. Today was special. The neighborhood was planning a small festival by the lake, a day to celebrate their shared space and the bonds they had formed. Lucas was excited but also a little nervous. He wanted everything to go well, to show everyone how far they had come together. As the sun climbed higher, families arrived with baskets and blankets. Children ran laughing toward the water's edge, eager to play. Neighbors greeted each other warmly, sharing stories and helping with preparations. Mrs. Green brought fresh flowers, arranging them in jars along the picnic tables. Mr. Ellis set up a small tent with photos of the neighborhood's history. The air was filled with the sweet smell of baked goods and the soft sounds of music. Lucas helped hang colorful lights between the trees. When he finished, he stepped back and looked around. The lake sparkled in the sunlight, and the faces around him glowed with happiness and hope. Mrs. Clark came over and smiled. "Lucas, this is wonderful. You've brought us all together." Lucas nodded. "It wasn't just me. It was everyone. We all wanted this." The festival began with a simple ceremony. Lucas spoke quietly but clearly. "When I first moved here, I didn't know much about this lake or the people around it. There were misunderstandings, and I was scared I might lose what made this place special. But thanks to all of you, I've learned that home is not just about land, it's about trust, respect, and friendship. This lake is ours, together." The crowd applauded, some wiping tears from their eyes. As the day went on, neighbors fished, swam, and shared meals. Children played games on the grass while adults talked and laughed. Lucas found himself sitting with Mr. Ellis, watching the sun begin to set. "Do you remember the first day you came here?" Mr. Ellis asked. Lucas laughed. "Yes. I was so nervous. I thought everything was going to fall apart." Mr. Ellis smiled kindly. "But look at you now. You turned a storm into a new beginning." Lucas looked at the peaceful lake. "I couldn't have done it without you and the others." "That's what community means," Mr. Ellis said. "Standing together through the storms, and growing stronger." As night fell, the lights twinkled like stars around the lake. Lucas stood on the dock, watching the reflection of the moon on the water. He felt a quiet joy, deep and true. His journey had been more than about land or ownership. It had been about finding his place, earning trust, and making a home where everyone belonged. The storm that had once threatened to break his dreams had instead built a bridge to something beautiful. Lucas smiled to himself. The lake was still his, but now, it was more than that. It was a symbol of new beginnings, friendship, and hope. And as the gentle breeze whispered through the trees, Lucas knew one thing for sure: whatever the future held, he was ready to face it together.